I'm Rabbi David Vaisberg, Senior Rabbi of Temple B'nai Abraham in Livingston. This week's Parsha is in the midst of the incredible saga of our ancestors. Last week, Parshat Vayeshev, we reached the point where Jacob finally had to face the consequences fully of everything that he had done up until that point. And Rabbi Jonathan Sachs suggested that what Jacob had done prior to then was try to be Esav. He wanted everything that Esav had as Isaac's favored son. He wanted the birthright, which he got. He wanted the blessing, which he got. And then he had to deal with conflict everywhere. And it's only in what some rabbis will say is his wrestling with himself at the end, before encountering Esav one more time, that he could finally come to terms with who he was. And Yaakov becomes Yisrael. This week we get to Joseph, and we hear about the relationship with his brothers. And even though he was the favored child, he could have gotten along. He could have been, at that point, one of 11 boys and just played. And sure, Dad would have given him a privileged status, but he did not have to add to it. The Torah tells us, though, that he did differently. The Torah says that at 17 years old, Joseph was still a young man. That the Torah tells us that he behaved in an exceptionally immature manner. The rabbis try to figure out what this means, and some of them will say, well, he dressed up, he curled his hair, he accentuated and made for himself a personality that was more glamorous than his own. And of course, we hear in his dreams about how he actually pictures his brothers and even his father bowing down to him. That he has to be someone even far greater than who he is, to the point where his father says, Joseph, you may be going a little too far. And so, of course, in Joseph imagining himself to be greater than he is, he ends up getting nearly killed. Reuben saves the day. He's only sold into slavery, and he ends up in prison. And it's only in the depths of prison that he discovers something else. Everything is stripped away. And all he has is himself, his own thoughts, and other fellow prisoners. And Rabbi Brad Artson actually suggests that it's in his interest in somebody else's dreams rather than his own that he begins to change course. That he begins to care for others and realize that he can do more if he helps to lift up others rather than pushing himself forward. And not only that, in his interpreting the dreams, this time he doesn't give himself credit. He gives God credit. And so last week, Jacob had to stop trying to be his brother and accept himself. This week, Joseph has to stop trying to be bigger than he is and instead focus on embracing others. Focus on humility and understand that it's in connecting with each other and building relationships and caring that we can truly thrive. Shabbat Shalom.